Hello and welcome everyone. I am your science teacher Hemlata Chandolia. Students, today we will start a new chapter of class 8 science, that is chapter number 6, combustion and flame. Students, in this chapter we will discuss about combustion process and the factors which favor the combustion process. We will discuss about ignition temperature and many other things like fire extinguisher. We will discuss about flame and the structure of flame. Then we will learn about the fuel which we already had discussed in the previous chapter, then the characteristics of ideal fuel and the harmful effects of combustion or burning of fuel. Okay students, in today's video we are going to discuss about combustion. Before starting about the combustion, let's revise what we already had studied in previous chapter. Beta, you all know about the petrol, diesel, coal, charcoal, CNG, LPG. All these are termed as fuel and we are using these fuels everywhere, at our industries, at our trade and at our homes also. Fine, we are using LPG and CNG at our homes as a fuel. Beta, do you know all these fuels burn similarly? Exactly. आप LPG को, कैरोसिन को, कोल को जब इनको आप बर्न करते हैं, जब आप इनको कंज्यूम करते हैं, तो क्या ये एक जैसे ही रिएक्ट करते हैं? They are giving flame? Not exactly. Students, the fuels like LPG, kerosene, CNG, they burn with flame and they are giving you heat and light. But coal and charcoal are those fuels which are just glowing. सिर्फ वो आपको ग्लो करते हुए दिखते हैं. They are not giving you any flame. That means they are just glow without producing any flame. Students, do you remember what is that glowing and what is that burning basically? It is combustion. What is combustion? Just wait for it. Before that, just remind yourself the burning of a magnesium ribbon, which we already had studied in class 7th and in the previous chapter of this class also. When we burn the magnesium ribbon, it gives you the brilliant white light, isn't it? And finally, it gives you magnesium oxide. You might have seen the burning of candle also. In both burning, we are having heat and light, isn't it? So, we can say the process in which a substance combines chemically with oxygen to produce heat and light energy is called combustion or burning. Fine. आप याद करिए, जब भी हम कैंडल लाइट करते हैं या कोल को जलाते हैं, the important factor is air and in air we are having different gases, but for combustion process only oxygen is must. Is that clear? So, when the substances, which substances, which are your fuel or which are combustible one, we will discuss later what is combustible, what are other substances. जब भी हम इन substances, जब भी ये substances chemically oxygen के साथ combine करते हैं and after their combination they are giving you heat and light energy. This process is known as combustion or burning. Fine. Students, there are three factors which are very important for the combustion process. What are they? First one thing, it should be combustible. आपका जो भी substances है वो जलने वाला होना चाहिए. Fine. And second thing, air or oxygen. It is the important one. And very important thing, ignition temperature. Don't worry, I will explain you each and everything one by one. So, what is very much necessary for combustion, for producing flame? What are that? First, the substance should be combustible. Second, air or oxygen, and third one is ignition temperature. Students, what are combustible substances? Those substances that undergoes combustion. they are known as combustible. Fine students, like पेपर, क्लॉथ, वैक्स, कैरोसिन, आप इनको जैसे ही हल्का से इग्नाइट करते हो दे कैच फायर और दे स्टार्ट burning. Fine students, we are having a table here in which you have to just take which substances are combustible and which are non-combustible. अब non-combustible substances कौन से होते हैं बेटा? वो जिनको आप easily जला नहीं सकते, they easily can't caught the fire basically, just like your iron, just like your glass, stone. आप जला के देखिए, क्या वो easily fire catch करते हैं? Not exactly. So they will come under the category of non-combustible. So just look at here, we are having wood. क्या wood combustible है? Yes. Paper? Yes. आप पेपर को जला के देखिए, फटाफट से जल जाता है, isn't it? Iron, nail, is it combustible? No, not exactly. Fine. Kerosene oil, yes, that's why we are using them in chimneys and all. Fine. Stone piece, no, it is non-combustible. Straw that we are using to drink, is it burn easily? Not exactly. Fine. Your charcoal, yes, it is combustible. Matchstick, फटाफट जलती है ना? When we rub it with the rough surface, isn't it? Glass, no, it is non-combustible. So on the basis of this table, we can easily distinguish between combustible and non-combustible. Okay, so finally, what are non-combustible substances like glass, iron, etc., which do not burn easily? They are known as non-combustible. तो हमारा first factor combustible combustion के लिए clear हो गया कि substance should be combustible, which can caught fire easily, which can burn easily, जो आराम से जल जाता है. Fine students, this factor is clear that substance should be combustible. The another important factor, that is the presence of oxygen, and that is the presence of air basically. So we can justify that with the help of a activity. Just have a look here students, we are having three situations. What we have to do, we have to fix a lighted candle on a table and we will put a glass jar, or we can call it a chimney over it. What is that basically? कि हमारे पास एक glass है, ठीक है, it is open from both the ends. ये यहाँ से भी खुला हुआ है और ये यहाँ से भी खुला हुआ है. When we just put that chimney over a lighted candle, and remember in situation A, we are having these wood boards are here. Over it we are placing that chimney. Fine. हमने क्या किया, इस वुडन पे, इन वुडन बोर्ड्स के ऊपर हमारे चिमनी को रखा एंड वी ऑब्जर्व दैट कि ये जो कैंडल है ये कंटिन्यू लाइट कर रही है, ये जल रही है. फाइन, बिकॉज इट इज गेटिंग एयर फ्रॉम here, from the below part, isn't it? In second situation, what we had to do, we just remove these wooden boards. ठीक है, हमने इनको हटा दिया है और जैसे ही हम इन wooden boards को हटा देते हैं, what happened basically, that flame flickers. okay, वो थोड़ी देर ऐसे झपझप करती है, याद है कैंडल? फाइन, वो करती है and finally it produce smoke and that candle stop burning. Is that clear? In third situation, in C situation, what we are doing, what we are placing a cardboard over it. हमने जो wooden boards थे वो तो पहले ही remove कर दिए हैं. फाइन, अब हमने क्या किया, वो जो lighted candle है उसके ऊपर, जो चिमनी के ऊपर हमने cardboard रख दिया. You observe that वो totally ही बुझ जाएगी. It totally goes off. Why? The situations are different at A, B and C. In situation A, that candle is getting air from downwards. In situation B, we remove the wooden board, so finally the supply of oxygen is cut off. In situation C, we totally close it from downwards and from upwards. So, तो ये क्या totally बुझ जाएगी. Fine. So, on the basis of this activity, we get to know that oxygen present in air helps combustible substance to burn it, and that's why oxygen is known as supporter for combustion. ठीक है, आपसे पूछा जाए what are the supporter for combustion, you can say oxygen is supporter for combustion. Fine, in air we are having so many gases but they are not supporter for combustion. Is that clear? Students, जब supply air की oxygen की finally cut off हो जाती है, then that burning substances is extinguished, वो बुझ जाता है. Is that clear? Students, same principle is also applicable when a person caught fire. What happened basically, जब कभी कोई कहीं पे फायर लग जाती है, आग लग जाती है, तो एक्सीडेंटली कोई पर्सन को भी आग लग जाती है. बेसिकली व्हाट हैपन, उसके कपड़े आग पकड़ लेते हैं. सो वी आर डूइंग व्हाट वी आर रैपिंग अ ब्लैंकेट अराउंड इट्स बॉडी, and by wrapping the blanket around its body, the fire which is caught on its clothes, the supply of oxygen is cut from that. ठीक है, and we know that कि हमें जलने के लिए, combustion process के लिए सबसे important factor क्या है? ऑक्सीजन का होना. जैसे ही हम ब्लैंकेट को रैप कर देते हैं उसकी बॉडी पे, ऑक्सीजन की सप्लाई कट ऑफ हो जाती है, and finally the fire is extinguished. Okay student, another important factor which is important for the combustion process is ignition temperature, and I told you that we will discuss it later. Now it's time to discuss it. Beta, you all know that the paper, the fuel like LPG, kerosene, all these caught fire easily. ये जल्दी से आग पकड़ लेते हैं. Compare करें than the log of wood or a piece of charcoal. What happened basically? Each substance have its minimum temperature for the burning process. So we can say that this is because the substance needs different amount of heat to start burning at different temperature. ठीक है, आप किसी को कब तक हीट प्रोवाइड करते हैं उसके बाद वो जलना स्टार्ट करता है. यू कैन जस्ट अंडरस्टैंड इज दैट कि आपने पेपर को कितनी जल्दी जला दिया और आपने एक पीस ऑफ कोल को जलाने में टाइम लगा. जले दोनों, बोथ आर गेट बर्निंग, बट they take their own time, they take their own heat and temperature, and after reaching that temperature they start burning. So what is that temperature? That minimum temperature at which combustible substance start burning is known as its ignition temperature. वो minimum temperature जिस पे कोई combustible substance जलना start हो जाता है. Suppose करिए we are having a iron nail and I am giving it a temperature of 50 degree or 60 degree. It will burn at that temperature? Not exactly. If I will provide that temperature to the normal fuels like LPG, kerosene or whatever, it will caught fire easily, isn't it? So the minimum temperature at which the combustible substances मतलब जो easily आग पकड़ लेते हैं, हम उनकी बात कर रहे हैं. The minimum temperature of a combustible substance at which it start burning is known as its ignition temperature. Fine. The third factor is also clear to everybody. Students, combustible substance cannot catch fire or burn as long as its temperature is lower than its ignition temperature. जब तक आप उसको ignition temperature तक नहीं ले जाते हैं उसके, तब तक उसका जलना possible ही नहीं है. First it have to reach its ignition temperature, later on it will start burning. उसके बाद आप temperature कितना ही increase कर दीजिए, it continue burn. Isn't it? Students, now it's time to discuss about a very interesting story of matchstick. We are using matchstick at our home. Matches use करते हैं. What happened in earlier time in ऐसा कहा जाता है कि the discovery of matchstick exactly discovered in ancient Egypt. Before 5000 or years ago, they use a small pine wood and they get dipped into a sulfur, and they are using that dipped sulfur stick as a matchstick. Later on what happened, we were using at the mixture of antimony trisulfide. Remember the names: mixture of antimony trisulfide, potassium chlorate and white phosphorus. The mixture of all these three, antimony trisulfide, potassium chlorate and phosphorus, is applied over the head of the match. ये टिली है, टिली बोलते हैं हम उसको हिंदी में, ठीक है. ये हमारा स्टिक है, इस स्टिक की जो हेड पे हमने इसको अप्लाई किया. किस किस को अप्लाई किया? एंटीमनी ट्राइसल्फाइड, पोटेशियम क्लोरेट एंड phosphorus. Finally, what we are doing after it? We struck against the rough surface. माचिस के साइड में वो दो छोटी छोटी सी ऐसी बार से बने हुए होते हैं. We are rubbing it over that rough surface, and finally white phosphorus got ignited due to the heat of friction. Fine. And उसके बाद combustion start हो जाता है, माचिस finally जलने लग जाती हैं. But there is a dangerous part. What is that? White phosphorus proved to be dangerous for the workers who are working there, and it is also dangerous for the persons who are consuming it also. Fine students, later on what happened exactly? Now we are using the antimony trisulfide and potassium chlorate. ओके पहले हम तीन चीज़ों का यूज़ कर रहे थे, ठीक है. अब हम क्या करते हैं? एंटीमनी ट्राइसल्फाइड एंड पोटेशियम क्लोरेट एंड रबिंग इट विथ द सरफेस विच इज़ हैविंग द पाउडर्ड ग्लास एंड रेड लिटिल फॉस्फोरस, ठीक है. अब क्या है? पहले हम वाइट फॉस्फोरस भी उसके साथ मिक्स कर रहे थे. अब हम क्या कर रहे हैं? हमारा जो मैचस्टिक का हेड है उस पर दो मिक्सचर्स हैं. दो मिक्सचर्स क्या क्या हैं? एंटीमनी ट्राइसल्फाइड एंड पोटेशियम क्लोराइड. और जो हमारा सरफेस है जिस पे हम इसको रब करते हैं, इट इज़ हैविंग द पाउडर्ड ग्लास का चूरा जिसको हम कहते हैं, बिल्कुल पाउडर्ड, ठीक है. और अमाउंट ऑफ लिटिल बिट ऑफ red phosphorus. When the matchstick struck against on rubbing the surface, it gets what happened basically? जो आपका red phosphorus है वो convert हो जाता है white phosphorus में, and immediately potassium chlorate react करता है और आपकी matches जलना start कर देती है, just because of the enough heat that is produced to ignite the antimony trisulfide. Nowadays we are using antimony trisulfide and potassium chlorate over the head of the matchstick, and on the rough surface we are having powdered glass and red phosphorus, little bit of. और जैसे ही हम उसको उसके rough surface पे स्ट्रक करते हैं, उसको उस पर रब करते हैं, आपका रेड फॉस्फोरस कन्वर्ट किस पे हो जाता है? वाइट फॉस्फोरस में. और जैसे ये कन्वर्ट होता है, आपका पोटेशियम क्लोरेट इमीडिएटली रिएक्ट करता है टू प्रोड्यूस इनफ हीट, और फिर वो उस इनफ हीट की वजह से आपका एंटीमनी ट्राइसल्फाइड जलने लग जाता है. एंड फाइनली द मैचस्टिक स्टार्ट बर्निंग. दिस इज द स्टोरी ऑफ मैचस्टिक. स्टूडेंट्स, नाउ डिस्कस inflammable substances. Okay, the substances, the combustible substances which has low ignition temperature are known as inflammable substances. जिनका कम ignition temperature है, जो बहुत जल्दी आग पकड़ लेते हैं, those substances are known as inflammable substances. The substances कौन से? Combustible substances. Always remember the word combustible substances. Those combustible substances whose ignition temperature is low, fine, and they caught fire easily, they are known as inflammable substances, like alcohol, petrol, LPG, nylon fabric. In synthetic fibers, we had studied that while we are doing work in kitchen, don't use the nylon fabrics. Okay, उस टाइम आप cotton fabrics को use करिए. Nylon fibers are also catch fire easily, quickly, isn't it? So इन्फ्लेमेबल सब्सटेंसेस कौन से सब्सटेंसेस होते हैं? वो कंबस्टेबल सब्सटेंसेस हुज हैविंग लो इग्निशन टेम्परेचर. इज दैट क्लियर? फटाफट से आग पकड़ लेते हैं. ओके स्टूडेंट्स, there are following situations which conditions which are necessary for the combustion of any substances, and it is clear to everybody. What are they? First, कि आपका combustible substance होना चाहिए, supporter of oxygen होना चाहिए, sorry supporter of combustion होना चाहिए. ठीक है, अब supporter of combustion क्या है? That is the presence of oxygen in air, isn't it? And you must have the heat to raise the temperature of combustible substances to its ignition temperature. Fine. 3 points, 3 factors are clear to everybody. First, combustible substances should be there. Second, presence of the supporter for the combustion, that is the presence of oxygen in air. And third one is ignition temperature. Okay students, अब सारी factors हमें समझ में आ गए. Now it's time to understand when the fire is on the large scale, then how to control it. Okay, so the next topic is how to control fire. Everybody have seen such type of scene in TVs or in books when the fire brigade persons are extinguishing fire, isn't it? They are using water, ठीक है, on the full pressure, isn't it? Or at the small incidents we are using the fire extinguisher. In both the pictures you can see that both are the system which can extinguish fire. Fine students, now what are the conditions by which we can cut off this we can extinguish the fire basically? So there are some principles or there are some steps which involve the removal of the condition which supports the combustion. And what are they? First of all, we know that we need the combustible substance like our fuels, isn't it, which are combustible. सबसे पहले तो उन्हें हटाएं so we can stop the fire, isn't it? Second thing, we can cut the supply of oxygen, that is the air basically. And third one, we will slow down, we will make it slow down the temperature of that combustible substance to its ignition temperature. उसका ignition temperature को ही आप ख़त्म कर दीजिए so it will not burn. So what are these 3 situations? First one is removal of all combustible substances. Second one, cutting of the supply of air, that is oxygen basically. Third one, cooling the combustible substances below their ignition temperature. आप जो यहाँ पर फायर लगी है उसको इतना ठंडा कर दीजिए कि वो अपने इग्निशन टेम्परेचर तक पहुँच ही नहीं सके. ओके, सो these 3, controlling these 3 steps, we can extinguish the fire. Okay students, just have a look here. I just prepared a table through which we can use what factor we have to stop for cutting off the fire from that particular accident or the particular happening. Okay, suppose we are having fire on sofa. अब सोफे पे आग लगी है तो we are not using that we didn't call the fire brigade. Okay, so what we will use? We can use a wet blanket. अब उससे क्या होगा, जैसे ही हमने पढ़ा था जब किसी पर्सन के कपड़े आग पकड़ लेते हैं, we wrap that person in a blanket. उससे क्या होता है, ऑक्सीजन सप्लाई कट हो जाती है, isn't it? ठीक है. And when there is a fire breakout, कहीं पे आग लग जाती है घर में या शॉप में, तब हम हमारे ब्लैंकेट की हेल्प से आग को नहीं बुझा सकते हैं. That time the water stored under the pressure is sprayed by fire brigade. Basically they cut off, they eliminate the heat. Fine, उस heat को eliminate करने पर ही हमारी आग बुझ पाती है. Fine. If there is fire breakout at पेट्रोल फिलिंग स्टेशन, अब क्या करें, ब्लैंकेट डालें? नहीं. तो क्या फायर ब्रिगेड वाले पर्सन क्या करें, पानी स्प्रे करें? नॉट एग्जैक्टली. So what we are using there, we are using sand there. पेट्रोल पंप का भी विज़िट किया है आपने, वहाँ देखा होगा, वहाँ पे है ना 3 बकेट्स रखी हुई होती हैं. यू माइट हैव सीन दैट कि उस बकेट में सैंड होती है, बजरी या रेत भरी हुई होती है, isn't it? So finally what happened when we are putting that sand over that accident area, it eliminates the oxygen finally and it stopped the fire. Okay. फायर इन इलेक्ट्रिकल इक्विपमेंट, कई बार शॉर्ट सर्किट्स हो जाते हैं, कई बार इलेक्ट्रिकल जो इक्विपमेंट्स हैं उनमें आग लग जाती है. तब हम क्या करते हैं, वी आर यूजिंग कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड एंड यस वी आर यूजिंग द फायर एक्सटिंग्विशर, isn't it? What is filled inside it? Inside it we are having carbon dioxide. So it cuts the supply of oxygen or it will eliminate the heat from there, and finally it helps you to stop the fire. Okay. जंगल में आग लग जाती है तो क्या होता है, you might have seen कई बार जंगल में अपने आप आग लग जाती है, फॉरेस्ट फायर, जंगल का जंगल जल जाता है. तो ओनली थिंग दैट इज़ हेल्पफुल हियर इज़ वाटर. Finally when the water is sprayed over it, it decrease the heat level and finally the fuel stop burning. या तो आप जंगल में से लकड़ियाँ हटा दीजिए, that is not possible for us, isn't it? And finally what happened in forest, क्यों आग लग जाती है, because when the 2 trees, अब बड़े बड़े पेड़ हैं and they are having the rough surface, when they rub together and we are knowing that कि normally जो सूखी घास होती है, ड्राई ग्रासेस होती हैं, दे कॉट फायर ईजीली एंड फाइनली इट जस्ट स्प्रेड ऑल ओवर टू द forest. Okay students, now it's time to discuss about types of combustion. Okay, अब types of combustion को हमने basically 3 types में divide किया हुआ है. The first type of combustion is rapid combustion and second combustion is spontaneous combustion and third one is explosion. अब rapid combustion क्या होता है बेटा? Rapid combustion is that combustion in which the combustible substance फटाफट से आग लग जाती है. जैसे आपने घर में गैस LPG से कनेक्टेड है आपका बर्नर, आपने फटाफट से लाइटर से उसको इग्निट किया और वो इट स्टार्ट बर्निंग. सो दैट टाइप ऑफ combustion is known as rapid combustion. Okay, and the important thing that you have to remember here that you need something to ignite that particular thing. Okay, combustion of substance is taking place rapidly while producing heat and light, like kerosene, LPG, petrol. माचिस की तिल्ली जला दीजिए, फटाफट से, मतलब बिल्कुल बहुत तेज़ी से ये आप आग पकड़ लेते हैं. ठीक है, तो दैट टाइप ऑफ कंबशन जिसमें फटाफट से आग लग जाती है, दैट रैपिडली बर्न एंड इट गिव्स यू हीट एंड लाइट, दैट टाइप ऑफ कंबशन इज नोन एज रैपिड कंबशन. सेकेंड कंबशन इज स्पॉन्टेनियस. स्पॉन्टेनियस का मतलब समझते हो, दैट इज नेचुरल, अपने आप लग गई, उसको किसी की हेल्प की जरूरत नहीं है. देखो आपने माचिस जलानी है, आपको कैरोसिन अगर आग पकड़ता है तो उसके लिए कुछ सोर्स चाहिए होता है, वी नीड द सोर्स. बट इन स्पॉन्टेनियस कंबशन वी डिडंट रिक्वायर एनी सोर्स. हमें लाइटर की या माचिस की किसी की भी ज़रूरत नहीं है, दे विल बर्न ऑटोमेटिकली, naturally burn करते हैं. So the combustion is taking place without help of any external source. Fine. And finally that material burns into flames. Do you remember that burning of sodium and potassium? जैसे ही वो एयर के कांटेक्ट में आते हैं, दे स्टार्ट बर्निंग. एंड यू नो द वेरी रिएक्टिव नॉन मेटल फॉस्फोरस ऑल्सो. फाइन. So they burn automatically, उनको किसी की ज़रूरत नहीं पड़ी. And the forest fire is also the example of spontaneous combustion. Is that clear? The third one is what? Explosion. अब word से ही पता चल रहा है, explosion, विस्फोट हो जाता है, फटाक, है ना? And we know what is explosion basically, that that is that type of combustion which is taking rapidly with the production of heat, light and sound. आवाज़ होती है बुड़ुम जैसी, याद है हम फायर क्रैकर्स हम दिवाली पे पटाखे जलाते हैं, isn't it? That type of burning, that type of combustion comes under the category of explosion. Is that clear? And what happened basically कि वहाँ पर जो chemical reactions होती हैं वो बहुत higher quantities में होती हैं. We can take the example of burning of firecrackers, explosion in coal mines. Coal mines में भी बहुत बार कई बार blast होते हैं. That is also comes under the category of explosion. Burning of firecrackers and volcanic eruptions, we can also include it under the category of explosion. Fine, students, three types of combustion are there. First one is rapid combustion, second one is spontaneous and third one is explosion. So, till today's video we had discussed about combustion process, three important factors which are necessary for the combustion process, and you might have learned about the ignition temperature and types of combustion. In next video we will discuss about flame. Till then everybody, revise what we learned today. Okay, take care everyone. Thank you.